What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Hobby Hotline. We are here on episode 349, which again, these numbers just keep getting higher and higher. I can't believe it. I think my first episode was episode like 100. So it's crazy how far the show has come. And we've got some cool news that we're going to be talking about on the show a little bit later. I'm here with Victor and Chris. I'll start with you, Chris. I know you're on the West Coast Card Show. We'll kind of talk about that. How you doing?
Doing great. Yeah.
Awesome. And Victor, I'll kick it to you here for just to, give us a quick update. We have some big news. The show here is going to be moving over to 4Collectors. And I know, Victor, you were saying you had some good info on that you want to share with the audience. So let everybody know sort of what you got going.
Yeah. Thanks, Adam. Good morning to you and Chris. Good morning, Hobby. And good morning to the chat. We are making the move. I guess it was announced here this past week. There was a small promo video that was sent out, and I'm really truly excited about this transition, this merger with 4Collectors. I know I was bragging about 4Collectors about a month ago at the end of one of my videos, and it's one of those things that I've been noticing them really making a move this past year. 2025 has been a very strong year for 4Collectors. In my video, I actually said that if there was such a thing as MVP for content creators, I believe 4Collectors would be the 2025 MVP of the year, because they have a strong brand, and they've really come on strong this year, especially in the areas of hosting vintage trade nights. I mean, who would have thought that there would be a vintage trade night? A lot of the trade nights that we've been seeing since the inception have been ultra modern cards. Yeah. And now to have a vintage trade night just completely changed the dynamic of everything. And they not only hosted, I believe it was Strongsville, and then they ended up hosting a vintage trade night at the National, which was a huge success. Not only that, they have been strong leaders in the Hobbypalooza now for a couple of years, and they have a strong team of engineers who really understand algorithms and that sort of thing. And the content they have been putting out and the community that they have built has been second to none. And so really excited about this merger. When I first heard about it, and I found out at the National, I was excited, and so hopefully everyone can be excited along with us as we start a new chapter here with 4Collectors.
Right, absolutely. And we still are going to be here next week. I believe that is going to be our last show. I think our debut show is going to be September 6th. So I'm sure, if you follow Hobby Hotline, you follow us anywhere on social media, you'll see that these announcements will be coming out kind of as we get closer. I think that we've got an updated roster. We got some more people from 4Collectors are going to be on the show. Some of their engineers are going to be on the show. It's going to be a phenomenal addition to, in my opinion, I think one of the better shows in the industry, one of the more diverse shows in the industry as well. Just like the amount of different voices and collectors and people and interests on this show, I think is really unmatched. So it's going to be definitely a great switch to a different platform, so that's going to be definitely a lot of fun. And, so Victor, thank you for that. So we will kind of transition here. Chris, you are out at the West Coast Card Show currently. What are the vibes? How is it out there? I mean, a lot of people are saying it's like the West Coast National. Is that sort of the vibes that you're getting from that show?
It's so funny. All the different shows I go to, it's the National of the South. It's the National of Asia. It's let's be honest. There's only one national, right? We saw it. It was crazy, but this feels very close. And it's a slightly different vibe. But I would say a little less vintage, a lot more modern, a lot of TCG. But there's still some. Holy cow! I had a little time to walk the show yesterday, and there's some incredible cards in that room. And then some of the best dealers that I know. So I think there's over 1,000 tables. If you want to see it all, it's probably a 2-day event. I think when you get to national level, I think national you need probably 3 days to see everything. And it was wild. Yesterday I was having a flood of memories come back to me from when I was working at Upper Deck in 2000. I think it was 2006 that the National was in Anaheim. And it just there are these pillars all throughout that hall, and these rush of memories came back to my early days at Upper Deck, and meeting some of the dealers who I now call really good friends way back then. So it's nostalgic in a way for collectors who've been doing this for a while, but more than anything, I'm just shocked at the growth of this show. I know we live in a different collecting world post-COVID, but Rob Veres' first Burbank show was only like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was this little small thing in Burbank, and then they moved to Ontario, and then he said, I really want to try to bring something to Anaheim, and he's done it the last few years. And the layout for this one, previously there's been an upstairs and a downstairs, and then just the upstairs, and now it's on this main hall where the National used to be, and it feels really, really cool if you're a collector. And it's awesome. This renaissance of really good card shows is the coolest thing ever. At PSA now, we're trying to get out and meet collectors on their own turf more, and so we're doing all these different shows that we had never done before, and it's awesome to see the different things that each show brings to the table. But West Coast Card Show is quickly become a behemoth in our space, in the hobby, and I'm excited to see what's next.
Yeah, I think it was funny, actually. Right after the National, I posted like, oh, if you didn't get out to the National, I posted this on TikTok. I was like, oh, if you didn't get out to the National, like, here are some other shows that you can go to. Like, I was talking to the Dallas show, the Philly show, and like it was only 3 or 4, but when you only get 3 or 4 comments, it seems like everybody's commenting it. And everyone, all the 3, 4 people were like, oh, you forgot the West Coast Card Show. And then I looked into it, I was like, wow, I did miss that. And, baseball, I think it's Baseball Card Digest has like a show schedule where you can like search by your state. Like, I know, like, I live on the Cape, so I know, like, I think it's August 31st. There's like the Cape Cod Card Show. So I'll be probably going to that if anybody from Cape Cod is listening. But like, there are, I don't know, it's like you were saying, the post-COVID, I think it's really impressive how many people you're still seeing at these, and West Coast Card Show, that's a big one. But like, even some of the smaller ones, you're seeing people, if you want to go to a show every single weekend, you can, which I think is like very cool. And I think, the card show, I'll ask you this, Victor, do you think the card show just in general is like sort of the lifeblood of the industry? There's so many people going to these shows. Like, what are kind of your thoughts on like maybe a West Coast show? Like, if the National were to go out there, I know you're a Chicago guy, so like that National for the next couple of years will be right in your backyard. But like, where else like do you think that it could expand, or even if you wanted to expand, I suppose?
Yeah, I'm kind of biased with the National in Chicago. I don't think it needs to expand personally. But I think the innovation with Rob and he, he's such a trailblazer, man. I think he can build something similar, up to par, that perhaps would be perfect for the West Coast. I don't know. I don't know what's available out there, if they can hold something. I'm sure there is some type of convention center out there that can host the National, but I wouldn't mind going out there for a National, but I do think that for the time being, I think the innovation of Rob and his team is doing an excellent job. I will say I watched a video with Rob on Instagram a couple days ago, and he was kind of walking around the showroom floor, kind of giving highlights of what was going on. And I really like what they did at this one. They made like 2 separate sections. They made one for sports cards, one for TCG, and one the TCG side had, I believe, 350 tables, he said. But they really segregated both genres, and I thought that was a really good move. They also, and I've been hearing some chatter online, they put the corporates on the outer perimeter.
Yeah.
and kind of brought all the tables in the middle. I thought that was a really cool concept as well. And so, there's been some chatter online, like I says, about the corporates being on the outer court. Is that really kind of like where they belong, or is that a good move? And there's been some debate on that, but I like what they're doing, man. I like what they're doing, but I think it's also an unfair comparison because the building, I heard Rob in the video say that building that they're in is 200,000 square feet, as opposed to like in Chicago, it's like 850,000 square feet. So like the placement of the corporate is going to be different because it's the size of the room.
Right.
Yeah. Well, two things to that. One, for the corporate, I'm shocked that we're not seeing manufacturer participation in the show as of yet. All the grading companies are there. All the auction companies are there. We all see tremendous value in it because it's incredible collecting base. But I'm a little surprised, and I know manufacturers, they have to do their budgets a year in advance for events and things along those lines. But this is one that is an easy one for Upper Deck to participate in California, and then Fanatics has a presence in California too. And yeah, Fanatics does have their Fanatics Collect and some of their other aspects of their business there, but Tops isn't there, and I think that is one of the missing elements to making this a truly huge show. But getting back to innovative ideas that they're doing, the badges that they do for collectors are so cool. They're actually a collectible badge, and it's like, why hasn't someone thought of this before? A lot of it is Steph Curry content, but it's cool, and it's unlicensed. It's not NBA licensed, but the way that the creative ways that they designed the cards that are in the badges is super cool. And some of these, there's a chase component to it as well, and it's like, oh my god, why has no one ever thought of this? So they're doing some things I think that are really not groundbreaking per se, but disrupting, and things that every show should be looking at what they're doing, because they're coming up with some really innovative ideas. And from a collector experience, what I love is it doesn't feel like every other show, right? I've got a whole bunch of badges from all the different shows I've attended, right by my desk. But their badge is one that I would actually put up on my wall or
Nice.
Put in my collection. So
Yeah.
I think it just hits a little different, some of the things that they're doing.
You have it available, Chris? Can you show us?
No, I got a stupid exhibitor badge. The
okay.
It's a cool one. So yesterday I was like, shoot, should I maybe I should buy a badge, So it makes it worth it to potentially buy a couple.
Yeah.
And
bring
wait,
your
so Chris, you were saying
non-collecting friends to this and take their badges.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so wait, so Chris, you were saying that those were the badges for the non-exhibitors? That was for like the general admission
Collectors.
badges, essentially?
Yeah.
Wow.
You might see
I know
on
that
eBay.
I know that they do.
No,
yeah,
there's
seriously.
a lot on eBay from last year, and it's a really fun collecting rabbit hole to go down. West Coast Card Show or Burbank Card Show badges. There's some that sell for tens of thousands.
What?
Because there's Steph autographs, and one thing that they did that was really cool. I still want to get one of these at a rational price, but it's going to be a while. They had him do his thumbprint on the back, which was just unique.
Wow. Yeah, I mean I know with the National they do that as well, not to the extent. I mean, I think like this year I was lucky enough to get one of the rookies. Like I got like an Angel Reese Monopoly Prism, and I know they were doing that with some of the other media badges. I don't remember if they did it with I think it might have, I don't know if it was just media. I think it might have been just media. Victor, I don't know do you remember if they had on those National badges, like was it just the media people, or was it other badges that also had those cards? Because like that would be, that's something where if they're putting rare enough cards in there, people are going to be cracking into those almost like they're cracking into like a PSA case, or
we
like
have
a Beckett
people
case.
submit them to PSA. Like
What?
it's it's happening. So yeah,
Wow.
it's a really cool, unique idea that they've done the last couple of years, and it creates a really different type of collectible, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I mean, that's something I've always thought of too. With like, I've been lucky enough to be a media member at the National for 4 years, so like I have 4 badges that I maybe should put on some sort of display. I mean, I don't. I have them all. I kept them all. Luckily, I put them just in the same exact place, and because I'm the type of person where I'll put something somewhere random, and then it's just in my head. I'm just like, it's gone for forever. I have no idea where it is. So luckily, I put them in the exact same drawer in like my closet every single time, so that way I always have them. Yeah. So Chris, any final thoughts here? We're kind of going to move on to some sales and some other, big auctions that are kind of ending this weekend. Any final thoughts here with the West Coast Card Show since you're out there?
Yeah. The other thing that I was impressed by is just the amount of people from really different locations. There were people that flew out from China that I saw and talked to, and some from New Zealand, England.
Wow.
So people are coming from literally all over the world for this show now, and it kind of signals the last big show of what we in the industry call show season. With Comic-Con, then National, then Gen Con. So West Coast Card Show is the last biggie to finish off the summer, and my team always likes this time of year because they can rest up a little bit until we do it all again. Yeah. But it's 2 more days, so if you are a collector anywhere in the West, it might be worth jumping on a flight to come on out and check it out, because it's worth seeing.
Yeah, totally.
Hey,
and so
Adam,
yeah, go for it, Rick.
Before we transition to the next topic, I wanted to answer Ziggy No's question at 10:06 a.m.
Oh, yep.
To my understanding, and speaking with John Newman, the concept of a live call-in show is still going to exist for Hobby Hotline.
Perfect. And then Chris Harris in the chat also. Shout out to Chris Harris. And then obviously I was giving some shout outs to some. Go ahead.
A little snarky as usual for Chris.
Yeah, of course, but it wouldn't be a tweet or a comment from Chris Harris if it didn't have a little snark to it. Yeah, shout out to a couple other people here in the chat. Also, I mean, I like to do this. I like to see where everybody is watching from also. So anybody in the chat who's watching, want to just leave a comment with where you're watching the show from. It's always so fun because we get collectors from, I mean, kind of similar to what you were talking about, Chris, where there's people all over the world that are watching this show. And, you get people from different parts of the country, and then you get I've heard people from Australia and all of these places. So it's definitely cool. So if you are a commenter and you would like to comment where you're watching the show from, please definitely let us know. Yeah, of course, we got, Mad City Brew, always a great commenter coming into the chat here. The next topic we have,
Adam, real quick, I got one.
Sorry. Go ahead.
One last funny story. I'm looking at a card and it reminded me. I brought my 2 boys, 12 and 13, to the show on Thursday night for preview night. And I don't like bringing my kids to important shows because I've got to work, and sometimes 2 brothers, they can kind of butt heads a little bit, and last thing I need is them choking each other out in front of my corporate booth. But they were moving around and having some fun, and they're old enough that they can go enjoy the show on their own now. And my older son comes sprinting up to me at the PSA booth, and he's like, "Dad, I need $70 quick." I'm like, whoa. Like, usually we talk about this, what have you.
Right, yeah.
He's like, "Please, Dad." And I'm like, "Okay, but you're paying me back. This isn't like a gift." He's like, "You got it." Give him $70. Off he goes. And then my other son comes back to the booth just with his head hanging low. And I go, "What's up, pal?" And he goes, "James." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "I'm looking at this Moff Gideon card." So we like collecting Star Wars. And the autograph with Giancarlo Esposito autographs, it's very seldom that they're on the label. So for grading purposes, getting a 10 on one of his autographs is a little hard. And you can see the price. I think I'm going to leave this in this for perpetuity because it's so funny. The price is $70. And my youngest son is working a deal on this card because he knows, hey, maybe that autograph will grade well. Maybe the card will grade well. And I'm so proud as a collecting dad that he knows this. So he's working a deal to get it for $60. Well, his older brother James comes sprinting back and buys it for 70 underneath him.
Wow. Yeah.
And little did I know that's what that 70 was going to, having them in a fight the whole rest of the day.
Wow.
But,
That's
one of the fun parts of bringing your kids to a show, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at least there weren't. I hope there weren't any fists thrown. I mean, I guess an undercutting of $10 to get a car that you want is maybe almost as bad as the throwing some haymakers. But that's
Such a collecting faux pas.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, brotherly love there. We got Brody in the chat dropping some laughing emojis. Yeah, what's up, Brody? How we doing? Yeah, wow. that's I am glad that you cut me off there to get that story in, because that's definitely a fun one.
Sorry, I just saw the card and I was like, oh, that was West Coast Card Show.
Yeah, right. So the next topic, we're going to get into this one, and then we're going to get into some of the heritage stuff in a little bit. Also, there was a $4.2 million LeBron that sold, and this was the 22nd, so that would have been last night. Card Ladder posted, they've been posting a couple of crazy private sales. There were two Kobe flawless logo men, that one that sold for 2.3 and then one that sold for 1.7 million. And now we have this one, which is one of the numbers is 23, which to me, it's probably a little bit more than I would expect to be paying for this. I would have been closer in the maybe 2 million, but not that I have the money to spend on the card like this anyways. But way back in the day, I mean, if people are watching this show, they probably remember when there were number to 99s that were selling for $1.5-2 million. And this one definitely makes sense. So I'll kick it to you, Victor, here first. What are kind of your overall thoughts on the card? Do you think they maybe paid too much, or kind of what are your thoughts on the number to 23 LeBron selling for $4 million?
Well, it only takes two people, right? And strong card, strong grade.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of the private sale thing, but I am also confident in the Card Ladder process, as they do extensive research on these sales before they post them on their website. So it is a legit sale that is, it's one of them things that makes me wonder, what's going on in the hobby, overall with the high end market. It's just soaring to new levels. I don't know if it's, on the side, I kind of claim it as Saudi money, if you know kind of what Saudi
right,
Arabia.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it's getting to that level, but this is a strong card. And the market is the market. The market said it's 4.2. It's 4.2. And good thing about it is that the rising ship raises all the other ones. So typically that's the case where when this card starts to go up, all the other ones kind of get a little bump as well. I don't know if that's going to happen, but sometimes that does happen.
Right.
Yeah. To this, I would say it's really interesting to see a card from Exquisite or any of the really super premium products get a grade that high. And the reason why is, for those thicker cards, I've learned working here at PSA, it's not 4 corners that you're looking at. There's 8. It's not 4 edges that you're looking at. There's 8. And the manufacturers do the right thing by hand packing out these cards, so it's not done through a machine where damage can happen to the cards. But these, with the die cuts in there, and so much going on, the fact they're hard signed, collectors don't realize that hard signed cards are much more subject to worse grades. And why is that? Because the card ships all over the place to get this athlete to sign it, and often the cards they weren't in Boca Raton this weekend. All right, let's ship it to New York, where they're going to be at for a signing. Oh no, they didn't have time to do the signing there. Let's ship it to Tennessee, where they're going to be at a game this weekend. So a lot of the hard signed cards ship a lot in order to get signed. And that's another reason why they don't always grade as well as, unfortunately, hate to say it, a sticker or a label autograph, where the card comes off the manufacturing press, labels applied, and then it goes into the pack. So to see a 9 on the condition and then a 10 on the autograph, that's a banger grade for one of the most important cards. It's not the 99 version, but with a multicolored patch as well, that is super desirable for collectors. So
And,
I think it's a really good investment.
and it's nice that it's an upper deck card, isn't it, Chris?
It is. It's beautiful.
But
Yeah,
I really like the insight that you gave there, and you just taught me something. But a lot of times when these cards, these thicker cards, get typically like an 8, or we, at least I do, we typically blame it on the window where the swatch is at, because
Yes.
sometimes it gets chipped right along that edge.
Yeah.
But you just shared the insight on thicker cards. Is what we're really looking at is 8 corners and 8 edges. And I never took that point of view. So that's really good insights on these thicker cards. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I mean, with this one too, like with the shape of the patch, it's like in an R shape. So it's like, it's even got more edges. It's got like, it's got a rounded edge, but it's even got more edges. So, and Chris, you actually just completely read my mind. That was the exact answer to the question I was about to ask you. So I have a little bit of a follow-up. So like this card being from 2003, how does like this card differentiate from your experience at PSA? Like, how is this card different from maybe like National Treasures RPAs that have been produced over the past few years? Like, is there a big difference, or is it kind of like similar?
I would say a big reason for the success of the Exquisite line is that it was adopted and embraced by Asia. Collectors in Japan, a ton of collectors in the Philippines went nuts for this product when it first came out, and so it brought in a lot of international collectors with deep wallets who picked up a lot of these crazy cards, and many of them are in collections that we may never see again. But I think when you have the entire world interested in a trading card set, and the major portion of the world that collects and spends a ton of money on sets like this, I think it's a recipe for success for that brand for sure.
Right. And is this so? I guess, and maybe you don't know this, is this a card that was like graded recently, you think? I mean, I think the serial number was, they kind of scratched it out in the picture, but like, is this a card that like, or actually, sorry, maybe I'll frame the question a little bit differently. When a card like this comes in and it gets a grade like this, does it like become the news around the office? Like, is it like, oh my God, we just graded like this crazy LeBron card, like you got to come see it? Like, is that something that happens kind of in that office, or is it like you guys are almost like numb to seeing crazy cards, and so it's like now it's just like you see this card and you're just like, all right, we got a billion other cards we got to grade, we got to move on quick?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of the latter. We get excited when we see something like this come in for sure, or go out. We see a lot of cards come in, but that when they go out in that grade, that's really cool. The thing I would say that a lot of people don't realize, some of the biggest cards that are not in holders for a reason. It's not that they haven't been seen by grading companies. I had a raw card that was purchased recently for over $4 million as well come through, and it's a PSA 5, and the collector doesn't want it in a PSA 5, and so it remains unholdered. So I think that goes to speak to the value of grading and having a third party validate the condition of the card, because it's a big deal, for collectors to have a card in a high grade. So it doesn't mean that $4 million card isn't extremely cool. It's got one of the biggest stars in the NBA on it, and an incredible patch and autograph, but unfortunately it's a 5. And again, that's not an indictment on the manufacturer that made it, or the collector who has it now. It's just that these thicker cards don't always grade well, and there's a lot of things that can happen when you're cutting thick cards and putting layers of card stock on to make a card that isn't going to be a gem mint 10.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. And then, so speaking of grades, I think this is going to be an interesting little transition here to a card. So we're going to kind of get into some of the heritage auctions that are coming up, that if you haven't heard, there is a 1-of-1, maybe I think it's the only Jordan Kobe 1-of-1 logo man in the existence. I know that I think I saw Brian, the card guy, or Adam, the card guy. Sorry, excuse me. He put out a great video where he was saying that there were multiple Jordan Kobe, Jordan LeBron logo men like this, where this is the only one. So this card is already at $7 million. So it's already, I believe that will be the highest for a basketball card. I'm pretty sure when I was looking at Card Ladder, I think that there's a potential that in the next like day or so, this could break that $12 million record. I don't know. I mean, Victor, I'll ask you this first. Like, you know, you're a Chicago guy. Is this a card that is like, you know, is this the best card of all time? I don't know. Maybe that's my question to you. Like, is this maybe potentially the best card, best basketball card of all time, I suppose?
Another Upper Deck card, huh?
Yeah, I love this.
Man, I tell you, Adam, I really do. This is potentially one of the greatest cards ever made. There's a lot going on here. You know, 1-of-1 dual logo man autographed of two of the greatest players ever, in my opinion, anyways. So I'm really excited to see where this thing ends up. Man, what else can you say? This thing is just, you know, awe-inspiring. This card.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we were just talking about grading. We were just talking about some of the higher grades. So, like, obviously, the PSA 6 on this card. I'll ask you this question, Chris. It kind of doesn't matter, right? I mean, if it got a higher grade, maybe that helps it a little bit. And this has kind of always been my thought process and questions around some of these cards. Like, do you grade them? Do you not grade them? Like, does the grade matter? Like with a PSA 6, like Chris, do you think that really matters for this card? Or is this card, like it being in a PSA holder and it being the card that it is, just that it's in a holder, that's really what's going to hold a lot of the value, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the premium exists when you see that anomaly that's you know, like on a precious metal gems card. Traditionally, because of all the foil going on with them, very hard to get those cards in a high grade. So if you see a 6 or a 7, you're like, wow, that's a really nice card. But when you see that 9 or 10 on a PMG card, you're like, whoa, that doesn't happen. And you can tell by the population reports, but on a card as unique as this, I wouldn't say throw the grade out the window. I would say that it's the only one. It's a beautiful card. It presents incredible in the holder, and I don't think it's a killer per se at all. But it makes me wonder what it would be in an 8. You know, what it would go for.
Right, yeah.
Because
it
absolutely could be. You know, on a card like that, it could be an extra $1 million. So.
Right.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, because I mean, like you were saying, the difference between the grade of this card and then the grade of that LeBron card, like the LeBron being a 9 with a 10 auto, that is, like you're saying, probably added potentially an extra $1 million to the price of that card. Like
Absolutely.
we've seen other number to 23s sell in the like $1.5 to $2 million range, especially since that card has dropped a little bit in terms of like the number to 99 has maybe dropped. Maybe the number 23 has kind of held its value. But yeah, I mean, a card like this, if this was somehow in like a PSA 8 or a PSA 9, I think that it'd probably almost be a no doubter that it ends up breaking that. I think it was the 12.6. There was an SGC mantle that sold like a couple of years ago. And this is not the only card that is going to be selling that I think is influential here in the hobby. There is also a Babe Ruth. Now, Victor, you may know more information about this card than I do. Is this one of the earliest Babe Ruth cards? I mean, or maybe you may not know, but like, is it 1916? I can't imagine there's too many more Babe Ruths that are going to be that were produced before 1916. You know, so Victor, I'll ask you this card. Like, was this? What do you think of this, the Babe Ruth card? I mean, it's the highest grade PSA 7. There's only 2 graded. Sorry, I know I asked the question, then I kept going. But there's a PSA 7 and a PSA 9. There's only like 2 graded. But so this card, what do you kind of think of that?
Oh, I do know this one has been deemed as Babe Ruth's true rookie card. by all intent. And but I know there's also the 1914. I forget the card now. It's slipping my mind. But he also has a 1914 card, but that features him more in like a team schedule, shows him in like in the minor leagues. And but this is one where it truly depicts him in a Boston Red Sox, and is considered for many years now as Babe Ruth's true rookie card. And great card. Really looking forward to seeing the end price on this one as well.
What I think makes this card so beautiful is, we always think of him as the Sultan of SWAT, and so many of his cards have him with a bat in his hand, but he was a heck of a pitcher. And that's what he started off doing. And so to see him, doing a pitching motion on a card is, it's stunning as it is, but then it makes you look even closer like, oh, that is cool. That it's him really in his early years.
Yeah, because and now, I mean, I know there's the crazy stats with Ohtani, and I don't want to get into modern stuff since we're talking about vintage a little bit, but like it's crazy, like the Ohtani stats that he's breaking are like stats that Babe Ruth, like pitcher and hitter stats. He's breaking Babe Ruth's records. So it's like really, really pretty impressive there. And I think Ohtani's kind of stopped pitching a little bit. I know that this year he's pitched a little bit more than in the past, but for Babe Ruth, I mean, this is like, if you are a Babe Ruth collector, this is like the card basically that you want to own. And I think it's already, sorry. Controls a little bit here. I think it's, looks like it's almost at $1 million. So there's a chance that this sells in the $1 million. I guess with it ending in 11 hours, I would imagine it probably will end at that $1 million mark. If it doesn't, it'll be right around there, I would imagine.
I wonder if that's the highest grade on this card.
Yeah, it is. I was looking at PSA. The PSA pop report, there's only like 3 or 2 of them graded just like at all, which is kind of interesting. And I mean, Chris, actually, maybe I'll ask you this question. A card like that, why do you think that there are so little graded? Is it a counterfeiting issue? Is it just like why is there like no cards of that one that are like graded really?
Well, speaking of counterfeiting, coming to PSA, I'm almost shocked and sickened by the amount of counterfeit items that come through or attempt to come through.
Really?
And it's disappointing. I'm one of those hobby positive guys. So I often will tell people, if only these people could use their powers for good. But I'm not saying that this is mass counterfeited. We just have to understand that collecting wasn't what it is today back then. And anything that they made, like, if we think about the junk wax era, how many cards were made. I'm not saying that we live in a junk wax world today, but what is being produced now dwarfs the junk wax era by a lot. There's just a lot more collectors, right? Than there were in 1980, 82. So I think people just didn't save a lot of this stuff. The mom's throwing stuff out in the trash is a real thing. And things are changing now. We used to say, when I was doing marketing at Upper Deck, that, we lose collectors. We lose our male collectors from 15 to 24 as they find out about girls and, they move on to other interests.
Right.
But it's changed a ton. Now there's all these, teenagers with incredible Instagram accounts for their cards and things like that. It's really become kind of cool. But back then, people, as you grow up, you're like, no, I don't need Tinker Toys and baseball cards anymore. And I can't imagine how many of these went to a dump somewhere.
Right. I mean, I think that's kind of the sort of the interesting thing about cards and collectibles in general. It's like, what I've noticed is the collectibles that end up being the most valuable are the ones that were not meant to be collected, I guess is sort of how I've seen it. Like Pokemon cards, I think, is a perfect example. Like when the first edition Pokemon set came out, nobody was really buying those and being like, Beanie Babies are kind of maybe similar, but like nobody was really buying Pokemon cards being like, I'm going to not open this. And it's in 10 years, you're going to be able to sell the case for $1 million or whatever. So, that's maybe one thing that I think is interesting about the industry now versus sort of the industry or not the industry, maybe just collecting as a whole. I feel like there's a lot more companies that are creating things to be collected, which it's almost counterintuitive if you
Yes.
really think about it. Like, it's, again, in my philosophy is that, like, the most valuable collectibles they were not supposed to be collected. Like, that's sort of, like, Pokemon cards or any Beanie Babies. I guess, like I said, is another example. Just like things that were meant to be used for something that end up being like, the what we view now as like the most valuable things, about most valuable collectibles kind of all time.
Well, you could say that a lot about the ticket industry, the entire
Right.
category, where 10 years collecting ticket stubs was like, that's an old man's game, but with the rise of digital tickets and things like that, people have that nostalgia now for tickets, and this ticket market has boomed out of almost nowhere.
Right.
But going back to Pokemon first edition, they made about this much of it. Pokemon today, they make this much of it. And again,
Right.
it's the more there is, the less collectible it is sometimes. But that's why some of these first editions or older sets where they weren't as widely collected have just a tremendous amount of value.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The next card that's going to be selling, another vintage. I would imagine, Victor, would you consider this vintage? I mean, honestly, anything previous to 1990, unfortunately for me, I would consider vintage, just because that's I don't know, that's maybe how I view it. But I know that the actual vintage collectors are probably sharpening their pitchforks behind the screens, like
Sure
ready to get me off the screen. But so, like, this card, I know there's a couple of them, but like, Wilt Chamberlain PSA 10, like, this is, I don't know. I would consider it one of the holy grails of the industry. Is that a card that, you also like? I mean, is this, what are your kind of thoughts on this card?
Yeah, man. I'm surprised it's not an upper deck card, but this card in a Gem and 10, I mean, where are all these grails coming from, man? I would love to know kind of the backstory on some of these things, kind of like how they got them, how long they've had them. Because I know sometimes we accuse the hobby of like being a hot potato market, right? We're just flipping cards over and over again. But these 3 cards that you've highlighted here today, these are not your common cards that you see every day, man. These are grails, and I would love to know the backstory on them. But this thing, I mean, look at how beautiful this card is. It's like in a 10 for a 1961 card. It's just amazing.
Right.
Yeah, you mentioned where are these things coming from? One of the most satisfying parts of my job at PSA is being on the front lines and talking to customers, bringing in cards for submission, and it boggles my mind, and it's so funny to see people rolling up. I tell my team, you never know what anyone has. Anyone could break out a 52 mantle out of their back pocket.
Right.
And people bring them up to us. They've got them in books. A lot of times the really nice, the ones in great condition, were bookmarks that were, and
Wow.
that's why they're been pressed together and things like that. But I see people bring out $1 million cards out of socks that they've held them in for a while, Tupperware, a lot of envelopes. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, get that in the collector in me is like, can you please put a penny sleeve on that? So it's wild how the way that they've been stored sometimes, but sometimes it works like that. But that is a heck of a card.
Yeah. And I pulled up another one that, I mean, in my opinion, this in a PSA 10 would probably be one of my like holy grail cards. Like at the National, I was doing a bunch of interviews with people and I asked them what their dream cards were. And this card in a PSA 10, I think, would probably be one of them. I mean, Mikan is one of, I think, the more influential basketball players that probably this generation has never heard of. I mean, they had to invent the goaltending rule because he was so tall that he could just basically stick his hand next to the basket and just like block the shots. So Mikan is one of the more influential players. And again, this card is going to be selling too. So Chris, I'll ask you a question. Like, how these cards, like the 1961 Fleer or the 48 Bowman, like, how often would you say people are coming in with these cards, like these older cards like this? I mean, is it common to see, like I know you just mentioned some people pulling out mantles and stuff, but like, is it common to see some of these older cards coming into PSA, or is this something where like this card was probably graded a while ago and it's for, it's still very rare and you're not seeing it that often?
Yeah, so I would say if I'm working a weekend at the West Coast Card Show, let's say, I'd probably see about 5 different people come in with stuff from a set like that. Now, what it's going to grade at is a different
Right.
story, but usually people aren't bringing us total junk, so.
Right.
But it goes back to that, you get a little numb to seeing really cool cards working at a company like this. But
Right.
yeah, it happens more often than you think.
And so, Victor, for this 48 Bowman set, it's gonna have some crazy rookies in there, and I know you are you have a book about rookie cards, so you're very in tune with what would be considered and what wouldn't be considered rookies. So, like for this card, the 48 Bowman set, like this Mikan being a rookie, do you think that there are more? Do you think that there are more people have more of these rookies and they just don't know what they are? Or like, is this a card where if you got it, you know what you got, essentially?
I think if you got it, you know what you got. These things are I don't want to call them rare, but they are scarce, right? They're you don't see them every day. This thing, when they change the rules of the game because of you, you're a goat, man. I mean,
Yes.
Who does not? Nobody I know. Maybe a novice, right? Maybe a novice wouldn't know, but they can quickly find out that this player is one of the greatest players of all time. And so, yeah, highly respected card. PSA 9. That has to be the highest grade. Again, where are you finding these things, man? Did somebody pass away and decided to sell out the collection? Because this thing, I've never seen it in a PSA 9. My goodness.
Yeah, I'm looking up the pop report right now. Actually, I believe that there is one PSA 10, but let me just pull it up here and we can do the search together. Mikan, there's one PSA 10, so there's 4 PSA 9s. This only 367 graded, which, to put into perspective, there's about 325 Jordan Fleer PSA 10s. So and you have tons of the authentic, and then even the PSA 1, I think, is it's a funny number when these cards get graded, like with those low grades. Like, so, Chris, actually, maybe I'll ask you this question. Like, when people come in with these rarer cards, like, I think one of the things in the industry now is people do the grade reveals, and if things aren't getting a 10, they're pretty upset. Like, is that something that you see with some of these vintage cards? I mean, I could imagine that they probably, if they're getting a 6, they're probably like, yes, a 6. This is awesome. Like,
yeah, I think the vast majority of customers, and we try to temper people's expectations on the front end, as we're taking in cards. We're not graders, but we can say, if I can see it, a grader can see it, by showing them with a loop, here's some of the things that are going on with this card. And it's wild, as you look at any card from I would say the 60s and previous, as you look at them under magnification, it may look like they have 4 sharp corners, but then you get closer and there's fibers going everywhere, it's like, so to be able to show that to a collector before they submit helps them understand, oh, well, I'll be stoked with a 4 or 5 on this. So it's just, there's to get it's crazy to get a grade like that on these vintage cards. But again, like I said, some people have situations, that's why there's low pop, where they may have put it in a book for years and found it later on, or things like that. I know there's a lot of collectors that go to vintage bookstores and shuffle through the pages to see if there's any cards inside, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And then like the mantle, that was the SGC grade, or SGC 10, I think that one was just like in someone's drawer. I mean, it really, the level of that's one thing interesting about these vintage cards. It's like the level of how much people take care of them versus like they just found it, is like almost the people who just found the cards end up having a card that that's in better quality than like people who like put it in like a, you know, like a penny sleeve or put it in all of these things. It's just it's kind of a funny thing with vintage. Obviously the production of vintage is so much different, and we're actually going to talk about another vintage card that just sold that Victor brought up that I had never really known much about this card, to be honest, but there was back in August, so I think this was like couple weeks after the National. I know I keep talking about the National. It's just I can't believe how crazy it was. But there was yeah, right. There was a, let's see, 5. Yeah. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, the 18th. Bronco Nagurski. So it's a 1935 PSA 5, sold for 105. A lot of fives there. Sold for $105,000. And if we're looking at Card Ladder here, that makes it the 4th highest sale, it looks like, with back in 2019, this same card sold in an 8.5 for 174. So, I mean, you can only imagine what that grade would probably be nowadays. And, you know, so Victor, I'll start with you here. Like this was the card that you kind of want to talk about. Let's hear about that sale. Like what were your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, what caught my attention with this sale specifically is that this exact card, the last time it was sold was in 2015. And I forget the price that it sold for back then, but it is a 983% increase on that card since the last recorded sale. And that is just an enormous, I mean, how many X's is that? That's 10X at least.
Yeah, yes.
Amazing how the high-end vintage market is really taking off here. And that it's all right if you can't find it. I seen it on the Card Ladder headliner report that they send out, that email.
Gotcha.
That's where I saw the percentage, 983% increase since the last sale. Amazing.
Jeez. Yeah. I mean, I know, Chris, I relate a lot of stuff to the stuff you're doing at PSA, but like, is this a card that you have seen come in, or is this like a card that is, you know, sort of the rareness of it is more rare? Like, I'm looking up the PSA Pop Report. I'm just kind of interested to hear your thoughts about the card just in general.
I would say probably if I work in the dealer lobby for it all day, you know, it's where dealers are bringing in things and more VIP type customers come through. You're going to see some of these types of cards pretty frequently. Not this card per se, but these types. And it's awesome. Like, there's always this moment where we're like, oh my gosh, we're handling history here. And some of my newer staff will be like, as we bring it to the back, just taking something like that from here to a different room is like, my rep goes, I'm holding $10 million in my hand, and I'm like, yeah, walk carefully. So take your time with that. But it's really funny in the coin business. The collectors get so excited to say they held a certain coin. But my team feels that way a lot when they get to hold, you know, something like this.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of like sports cards is kind of crazy in that sense, because it's almost like a time capsule back to that era, like 1935. I mean, the math is about probably like 90. So something that's 90 years old, you're handling something that is, it was produced 90 years ago. It just is.
Yeah, your great grandfather.
Crazy. Yeah. It's crazy that things like this still exist. I mean, it's, you know, there's obviously not only 179 versions of this card, but like maybe again, people probably don't know what this is. And I think I saw a comment that was pretty good. Something about someone's, sorry, I'm looking for the comment. Oh, here it is. People in the 50s and 60s just wanted the gum out of the pack. The cards, you know, they were just for fun. So it's like, that's probably the case with like a lot of these cards, to be honest. We got, here's, I think we're doing some math here.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know if maybe someone, I think the math is right. I don't know. But yeah, so the card, it's just such, again, it's an awesome sale. And I would love to see one of these cards sell. So, Victor, is this like one of the first football sets? Like, what exactly sort of makes this card the price that it is, I guess?
I'm not very well versed on this
Gotcha.
set there, Adam. That would probably be for somebody else to answer.
Gotcha.
But I do know this card is probably the most iconic football card ever made. That can be said. I can say that with confidence, anyways.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, maybe one day we'll see that PSA 7 or PSA 9. It looked like there was one PSA 9, and I mean that would probably be if the 5 is $100,000. I guess the 9 is probably maybe in the millions. I think maybe, I don't know. Sometimes, like I talked about on other shows, I just know the price of stuff when it sells. Like I'm horrible at guessing the pricing of stuff. So like this Jordan sale, I'm saying is going to break the $12.6 million record or whatever. It might only get to whatever 8 or whatever. So we'll see. We'll see what it ends up selling for. And we're coming up on the top of the hour. I mean, time flies by here. We'll be back here on next week for, I believe that will be our last show on Bench Clear before we move on to For Collectors. So I'm just going to go back around the horn one more time, kind of let us know what you're doing, what you got going on, let the audience know where they can find you. Victor, I'll start with you.
I am going to be Saturday, so it's content creation days for me. Nice. And I can be found at true_RCS on any of the social media platforms. I will say that I've been playing around with this app called Mantle. And I spent I spent a couple hours last night, woke up to it again this morning. I can say this. I like what I see. It's a really cool app developed just for collectors. And if you like showing off cards and that sort of thing, check out the Mantle app. I posted my first post last night, and really cool app, man.
Nice. Yeah, I think Mantle, I think I've heard of it. It's kind of like a blog for, it's almost like an Instagram for collectors, right? That was correct. Am I mistaken there? Yeah. So it's
very similar to Instagram.
Yeah. I think that's how I heard it described at one point when I was kind of looking into it. Yeah, I definitely suggest going to check out that app as well. So Chris, how about you? What you got going on? I know you're on the West Coast at the show. Are you still at the show, or I think before the show you were mentioning you had some stuff going on?
No, I did the first 2 days, and I got some family obligations this weekend. But I'm going to be traveling a lot over the next few months. I'm excited to be going back east to do an event with Bleecker Sports Cards in New York. We're going to be out at I'm going to be going to the Macau show in China, so I've never been out there for that. Nice. So very excited to see that. Super pumped to get back to Toronto for the Fall Expo in November. So that'll be great. But I want to show you guys just something I got yesterday. So I'm a little pumped and card nerding out about it. But
nice.
People have heard that PSA was doing magazines for a while, and I got some of my first slab magazines in yesterday. So these are comics from when I was a kid, and most, if you're a collector of cards, you probably have a box of comics somewhere. So this is my old Flash that I got done. This is super cool. So if you're not a comic collector, kind of consider the Bowman first. Is when you have a first appearance of a character. So this was the first appearance of Moon Knight, and this is the first appearance of Black Cat. So these holders are flipping cool. And what I love, what card collectors would love, is on it gives you so much information, including if you scan the QR code, exactly what's going on with the comic. Front edge wear or things like that. But I was, ever since I came to PSA, we have these quarterly Ask Me Anything meetings. And every quarter, someone would ask, why aren't we doing comic grading? Why aren't we doing comic grading? And to see it come from, God, I've only been there for about three and a half years. To see them launch this while I'm here is just so cool. And I'm just feel so privileged to be a part of it. But one thing I will share, that if you are looking to get your comics graded, a service that they offer, it's really wild, is called pressing service. So you could have your comic, it just brings out the color a little bit more and brings out, helps the condition, remove some creases or things like that. mostly if it gets wavy. You're not allowed to do that in cards, but in comics, you are. So each, like, coins is a little different, comics is a little different, cards is its own unique thing. But it's kind of cool to learn. What I love about, working at Upper Deck for so long and then coming here is learning about collectibles that I never really thought about as passionately as I do cards, and diving in and meeting collectors, like even stuff like this. Coins are, this is shipwreck treasure. So this was underwater for hundreds of years.
Wow.
And now you can own it in a holder. So it's really cool to stay in your lane sometimes and collect just cards, but it's super fun when you look at the entire collecting ecosystem. And now getting some of my comics slabbed and chasing some. The only thing that's a bad thing about comic grading is the holders are a little bit bigger. And my wife is always already like, dude, you have way too much stuff. So I got to be careful with how I bring these home for sure. But I just wanted to share that with you because it's super pumped to get this.
Yeah, I ended up submitting about a dozen magazines at the National, so I'm really excited to get my first submission of magazines back.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, we saw a lot. It's really interesting. It's not just comics. You're totally right, Victor. So we're seeing Sports Illustrateds, we're seeing old baseball digests, and all these publications that, again, it's a lot like tickets to me, where you would go to the National and you'd see 3 dealers that just had all these ticket stubs on their booth, and you'd be like, what is this trash? And lo and behold, it becomes this whole new category. So I think that we're going to see something very similar with, there's absolutely a PSA effect to when they start grading new things. Like I've got Funkos behind me that are graded by PSA. So it's wild where it goes.
Yeah, I think in my next round of stuff I'm getting graded by PSA, I've got 2 Sabrina Ionescu, her first Slam magazine cover, which is like, cool. If anybody knows, Slam is like the basketball magazine for people who are into basketball. And I remember way back in the day, I was looking, and unfortunately they were not ones that I bought from the store. So I think that there's a difference in collecting them. Like there is a difference the way that there's a difference with cards too. But I have 2 of them that I've even actually never even taken out of the mail thing that I got it in. So I haven't even looked at them, to be honest. So hopefully,
that first cover is very similar to a Bowman rookie card too.
Yep.
So
it's similar to like what you were saying about the first appearance of like a superhero in some of those Marvel comics or any of the comics. Yeah. So
exactly.
So those will definitely be something I'm going to be submitting. I was going to bring them to the National, but when you're packing up to the brim, it's like, maybe the magazines unfortunately are not going to make it this time.
Yeah, they're tough. They're tough.
Yeah, especially because I don't want them folding all that, all that stuff. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it all.
The comic holders, it's that part's kind of cool. I had 4 comics.
Nice.
Just all stacked nicely together. So.
Right. Yeah, nice. And I guess you can find me. It's Adam Drew Palmer anywhere on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. TikTok's where I post most of the videos, and then Daily Nonsense on the Sports Card Nonsense YouTube channel. That's my new show that launched before the National. So that's been really cool working with those guys. That's basically everywhere you can find me. That's sort of all we've got for today's episode. Like I said, we're coming up here. We are at the top of the hour. So make sure you come back here for one of our last shows on this channel, and then we're going to be moving on to 4 collectors. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week, I believe, for Hobby Hotline.
Take care, everyone.